meet the first dashing resurrection of the dead on our channel. So, we happened to by chance buy a total BMW. A bunch of difficulties and setbacks stretched out over 4 months, but in the end the car came back to life and actually started to look like a car. In fact, this is the new donor car, which will be the base for the Volgatti body. Enjoy watching!
So, after we realized we needed a new donor car, we spent a long time searching for the right option. And after a couple of months, this ad popped up a BMW E63 with a 4.4-liter engine. At the time of purchase, we had no idea about the car's actual condition. The only thing that was clear was that the price was 5 times lower than the market value. So we gave it a quick look over and decided to buy it. We threw on the hood, if you can even call it that, and took a bunch of used spare parts with us. Yes, it's obvious that this is junk, but anyone who's done this kind of repair knows that it's often really quite hard to find small parts and fasteners, and something from this scrap might just come in handy. We can always throw it away later if we don't need it. In the end, we loaded the car onto a dolly and set off for home, 200 kilometers away. Judging by the scenery, it's clear that this was a while ago, probably at the beginning of summer. The grass was just greener back then, and we could film with a drone. Ah, those were the days. Those who have been following the project know that we originally chose a Ford Probe as the donor. I think many people will wonder, why not just use a proper donor car from the start? After all, now we'll have to redo everything. Yes, of course, it would have been right to buy a cool, suitable car in good condition right away if we lived in a perfect world. But unfortunately, we have to work with what we've got. And I'm generally used to acting here and now, rather than waiting for perfect conditions, which as a rule never come. But more on that a bit later. In the meantime, after about 4 hours, we successfully made it to the workshop and are now carefully unloading the car.
Nikolai, what are your impressions of the trip?
The car is awesome.
Can we put the terminals on and start it up?
Put terminals on and enter city.
Although, to be honest, there will be some visibility issues. There is some kind of stain on the windshield.
In short, our wake is being held inside the building. We took off the wheels and brought them to the tire shop. Honestly, it all looks as scary as possible. There's just a weld running across half the wheel, if not the whole thing. All sorts of little welds everywhere. The welding job is of course magical, but it looks pretty frightening. Well, while the car is rolling around the garage on these wheels, the rims will definitely be different later. We repaired the tires, put everything back on so the car is standing on its wheels and can move around, drive. Alright guys, let's roll it in, hook it up to the squirrel with the tow ropes and get it inside.
In the end, after a couple of days, the car is standing on inflated tires, everyone is as pumped as possible and eager to get started, still not realizing what we've gotten ourselves into and how much effort, time and money this restoration will take.
We've brought the car in, now we're putting it up on stands, lifting it high so we can take it apart calmly and comfortably. We are removing the engine, taking off the hood, the trim pieces and more trim so that everything can be inspected for defects. And then we'll replace whatever is completely dead so we can get the car running before registration. Now we're gonna take all this mess apart and remove everything that's in our way. The engine is basically already detached because it's mount weld. The mount is just broken off from the engine. It's completely loose. We unscrewed the mount. There's damage to the side member. Here you can, right here, check the chain tension. It's made very conveniently. Service ABS block. These kinds of damages are pretty much fatal for us. Now we're gonna take all this out, inspect for defects, and make some decisions.
That's exactly what we started doing. First of all, we need to clear out the entire engine bay and address the issue with the bodywork. Only then will it become clear whether it's even worth working on the engine and everything else, or if the car should just be scrapped, because it's not that simple here. The engine bay and frame are made of aluminum, which is not the easiest material to repair. By that time, the guys had already removed the engine, although, to be honest, it wasn't really mounted in place anyway. Most fasteners shattered after the impact.
We've removed the engine, inspecting it for damage and checking what else is broken. Little things like connectors don't really concern us. But since the impact was on this side, that's where the most serious damage is. The timing cover, the engine's front cover. We'll see if the cylinder head survived. The paw's gone. Exhaust manifold, shields and wires are dented. Engine mount is gone. On the other side, the alternator is missing, a whole piece of it broke off. There are some plastic parts
Everything is covered in oil and coolant. It's unclear if the engine was leaking before or if this happened after the accident. The transmission is also damaged and the rear mount is torn off. As we go further, we'll see what else is broken.
First of all, we need to assess the damage to the bodywork. Move engine aside, disassemble bay. Continue stepwise. We remove the exhaust system, fenders, side skirts, and anything blocking access to the bare body. Unfortunately, we'll also have to completely disassemble the interior, since we need access to the firewall from both sides. This didn't take much time. It took just one day. But as practice shows, disassembly doesn't require much time or brains. But putting this whole construction back together, especially after a couple of months have passed, that's the real challenge, and not everyone can handle it. It's at this stage that many projects come to an end and then they show up on classified ads with a description. Everything's ready, just needs to be assembled. I hope that's not our case.
Now it's time to look at the most interesting part, the hidden internal damage. The most obvious thing is probably what everyone expected. This is our biggest crease in the factory deformation zone. Here BMW has a factory deformation zone that absorbs the impact energy during a crash. Here it's crumpled, here are the folds, there are creases, but it's nothing good but nothing critical either, because a frame straightening specialist came by and said he can fix it if we have a quarter panel. He can pull, straighten, repair and restore it to factory geometry.
To send the car, we need a panel. There was a matching body at a scrap yard on the next street. So we went there, taking a reciprocating saw and an angle grinder with us. We decided to cut with a generous margin, since it doesn't affect the price in any way, and at this point it's unclear exactly what the specialist will need. We get this part. Load in trailer, return to base. Collier took a left side member as seller had no change. All that's left is to wait for the frame straightening shop, which took just over a month. We had things to do then, mainly working on the engine. As the saying goes, the deeper into the woods, the more firewood you find. Even at first inspection, it was clear restoring this wasn't practical or cost effective. It would be easier to just buy a running car. Yes, that's true, and we understood. We must take more factors into account. First of all, our budget doesn't allow us to spend 1.5 million rubles or $15,000 on a donor car in decent condition. Secondly, the car doesn't need to be perfect. Once registered, we won't need most parts. We'll cut it up again. Here, we decide what to invest in and restore, and what we'll just do to check the box. Third, what's bad for most people is content for a blogger, which is exactly what we're filming for you.
The further we go with the disassembly, the more surprises await us along the way. Not only is our vanos damaged, which we noticed when we bought it, the valve cover was broken, we saw this chip, so it needs replacing. There's a chip on this vanos, unclear if it will affect anything but unpleasant. We removed the cylinder head to repair and have the missing pieces. We thought we'd weld them back on, grind it, and get a good head. It's in great shape inside with no camshaft wear. It's very good. But we found broken or maybe not groove as a crack on the camshaft. This caused damage to the bearing cap. These factors mean we must replace the cylinder head. It's bad with the engine. Restoring it isn't cost effective, as it requires welding the block. Replacing gaskets expensive, low quality. Find a bare block and transfer internals into the block, or find a short block without attachments.
What to think? Baldi has engine. Text him alright.
Well, I sent the message. Let's see, will he reply or not?
He won't reply. There's not even him there at all.
You think this is all fake?
People never lie on the internet. I'm telling you from my own experience, 17 years on YouTube,
No one ever lies on YouTube. That's why you can totally trust this guy. I only know one smart bald guy on TV, and it's not this bald guy.
Not from that TV.
Not from that TV. They don't show people like that on this TV.
Doctor, lawyer, teacher, plumber, astronaut.
But seriously, if we order the engine, who's gonna bring it in? Is the drone on Belka gonna go again?
I'm not going anywhere on Belka. That's enough. I've had my fill of trips over the bridges into the bridges. Now, a live broadcast. The drone is on a special mission.
Let's be honest, Andriuka, Belka wouldn't even make it to Minsk.
Oh, I wouldn't go. That sounds like a challenge, damn it. Alexander, is that you?
That's what checkout time is for with Tesla.
A V8 won't fit in my trunk.
At least you'll get to drive a V8 someday.
No, if you write to him on the website.
I wrote to him. The application is submised. Imagine seriously he shows up like, here's your engine, because your Belka definitely won't make it.
Wonder what he drives.
Bald guy?
Morganera? Just like in the commercial.
No, if he's bald, it's gotta be a Dodge Challenger.
Stop bullshitting! Look, I brought you the engine.
In the end, while we were still figuring out what to do with the engine, the bald guy from AutoStrong brought us an engine taken from a running car in England. And right then, it was our turn for the wrapping. Sanya, who was that? Before taking the car to the body shop, it needs to be placed onto provisional wheels, meaning that all 4 wheels must be properly on the vehicle. We washed and cleaned the subframe and then the steering rack.
We bolted the subframe to the intact side member, installed the rack so the car would be on its wheels and it would be easier to load onto the tow truck. On this side, of course, the bolts didn't quite line up, just a little bit off. The side member is slightly in a different plane, and that's it. It's on its wheels. It's movable, rollable, with the steering just a bit dusty, but we'll roll it outside now and blow it off out there. It'll look great. From this side, the car looks really nice. If you don't know about some of the nuances, it's actually quite a decent car.
In the end, we rolled the car outside, dusted it off, loaded it onto a tow truck, made a temporary trunk lock, and sent it to the body shop.
Alright, here's another update. A week has passed. The guy called me. The BMW is ready. I'm heading out on my way to call the tow truck and we're gonna pick it up. The guy doesn't really want us filming there. He's not too fond of it, so I won't be recording anything at his place. We'll come back to the shop later and I'll show you the results, what was done for us and what still needs to be finished.
So just a week later, we have a restored body and proper geometry. Honestly, the craftsman did excellent and quick job. Thanks to him for that. Unfortunately, I can't share his contact information since he doesn't really need advertising or publicity. He's booked up with work for a couple of months in advance, and considering the fact that every day new batches of wrecked Teslas are brought to us from America with aluminum engine bays, by the way, the line for repairs just keeps getting longer.
The BMW is back, partially assembled even with the grills.
They're squishing. Here this part was replaced for us. Here is a piece of the frame rail, and here they replaced the entire frame rail well. Almost the whole frame rail. Here, everything that's non-removable remains. Where the strut mount is, there shouldn't be any issues with registering it. Something else, they straightened it, pulled out this nose here, but it still needs a bit of welding. Well, it's welded here, but not completely yet. A welder will come and finish welding all of this for us. The dents here are gone, all the bends, everything is gone. The tunnel inside the cabin has straightened out. It's still a bit crumpled, of course, but it's more or less straight. Almost all the creases here are gone. Everything has straightened out. Now it looks decent. There you go. All of this, including the weighting and everything else, took us about a month, maybe even more, from the moment we disassembled it and got it ready for bodywork. That's it. It even looks like a car now. Now we have to put all of this mess, all of this chaos, all of these broken and scattered pieces back together again. The challenge of how we're going to do this, how we're going to find a way to piece everything back into place is daunting.
As they say, the eyes are afraid, but the hands get it done. But before we put everything back together, we actually need to take the car apart even more. The first thing we did was remove the suspension and call in an aluminum welder. Yes, of course, ideally the bodywork specialist should be the one to handle this and return the car with all the seams and weld points already done. But in that case, the weight would have dragged on for at least another month, at best. That's why we asked to be squeezed into the smallest possible time slot, on the condition that we would handle the rest of the welding and assembly ourselves. Sasha Ivanov helped us out a lot with this. He specializes in welding aluminum and stainless steel. An excellent craftsman, we highly recommend him. I'll leave his contact information in the description. Once the welding was finished, there was just one final touch left: the painting of the engine bay. First, we thoroughly wash everything, dry it, degrease it, and then paint it black.
This is what the finished engine bay looks like. Dronya prepared everything, painted it and applied sealant where needed. Everything is done, painted a single color. Looks new car, new, a new ride, brand new, a new car. Sanya re-welded the seams for us, reinforced them, made them wider so that in the future we wouldn't have issues, so we wouldn't have to come back and so the aluminum wouldn't crack nearby.
We left them as they are, didn't grind them down so as not to weaken this stressed area.
Yeah, that's right. That's why on both sides we have such neat, even seams. I think there shouldn't be any questions from the traffic police because the strut tower with the number, with the VIN, remained intact. That is, it was repaired. This section of the frame rail was replaced and this tail was pulled out. Right here we just tore it a little bit at the weld spot. But overall the strut tower remained intact. In other words, the factory weld points were not separated here. We didn't touch this section of the frame rail. Here too, we didn't touch or disconnect anything. These are the factory weld points here. So when registering there shouldn't be any issues. But how it will actually turn out, we'll only find out during registration. And since everything is already painted, we'll be installing the entire suspension again, hopefully for the last time, because we've put it on and taken it off so many times already. We have to sort through the bolts, because all the bolts we were given were in a condition. Let me show you. If I can find one here, the bolts looked about like this, all bent, all stripped of threads. So now we'll be selecting the right fasteners and reinstalling the entire subframe and suspension.
Just like Kolya said, that's exactly what we ended up doing. We bought the necessary bolts, put in the subframe with the suspension hopefully for the last time and started assembling the interior. But as for the interior, taking it apart and putting it back together is definitely not happening for the last time. At this point we need to get the car into proper shape and then take it to the traffic police to register it. After that, we'll take apart at least the interior again in order to fit the upper part from the Bugatti. It's already clear that we'll definitely be cutting the roof and most likely the pillars as well. But more on that in the next episode.
Since we ordered the engine as a bare block, we now have to assemble and equip it with our own parts. Some things we're taking from our old engine, parts that are still good while, some things we'll have to buy, gaskets, some seals, various small items. We've already started to install the flywheel a bit. We're checking which hoses, pipes, small parts, wires, sensors, and various other things we need. We're making a list. We'll place the order now, and at the same time we're cleaning all the old parts. We've already ordered the engine mounts and they've arrived. The tensioner pulley, this one's from the old engine. You can see it was replaced at some point. The water pump, alternator, all sorts of small things so we can assemble it and install it in the car. Meanwhile, while we're waiting for everything to arrive, we need to fix this kind of defect. During the accident, the right manifold was quite badly damaged. Now I'll try to get it out of here to fix this dent without cutting it. Just hammer it back into shape.
By this point, we had finally finished inspecting all the auxiliary components from our old engine and started making a new list. To be honest, there was practically nothing left in working condition from the old engine. In the end, we hadn't even finished making the list when Lacey barged into our workshop again. Honestly, we were actually glad to see him, since we've been following him on YouTube for a long time. On the AutoStrong channel, he takes apart engines and gearboxes, talks about used parts, and creates a lot of useful and unique content. I'll leave a link in the description. Original used foam?
Yes.
Cut the crap! I brought you some parts.
All the missing engine parts have arrived. gasket, sealant, various rubber rings, O-rings, everything needed for sealing the engine has come in. The first thing we're doing is replacing the oil pan, because on this engine, which the guys provided us, there's an oil pan from a British version, and its starter is on the other side. We're installing the oil pan from our engine here, and everything else as well, the intake, starter, alternator. We're putting everything on, that's it, the caro, the transmission, flywheel, everything goes into the car, we assemble it, start it up, and drive. 5 minutes.
As Kolya said, that's exactly what Sasha did. They took everything apart, cleaned it thoroughly, and reassembled it with new gaskets.
So we've assembled everything related to the bottom end of the engine oil pan, the filter, the second oil pan, everything was put together with gaskets and tightened to the correct torque using a torque wrench. We put the engine on the table, now we're assembling it, installing the flywheel and putting on all the accessories. Along the way, we might forget something, assemble and disassemble some things, and we'll figure it out as we go. We clean, wash, degrease, apply sealant, gaskets and rubber rings, bearings, we assemble everything. I think it's unlikely that we'll get it right the first time. We'll probably have to take something apart and reassemble it, but I think we'll get there in the end.
The next step is to carefully connect the gearbox to the new engine, which means we need to detach it from the old engine first. We removed it and immediately gave it a good thorough wash for both appearance and ease of work. As a result, we now have all the necessary parts. Now all that's left is to assemble this puzzle correctly. And while the guys are working on that, I'll tell you a bit more about the logic behind what's happening and the donor replacement. Originally, the Volgatti project was the very first project on our channel that specialized in woodworking and epoxy. Of course, I understood that it was a risky venture, and there was no guarantee that the format would catch on, but I really wanted to give it a try. That's exactly why we launched the project with full enthusiasm and minimal investment, and we decided to build it just for fun, using a fork probe as the base. It was the only suitable option we could afford. Over time, the project became well liked and really resonated with you. In the end, we ended up with a truly cool design and proportions, and that's a miracle, considering we didn't have and still don't have a 3D model of the project. We did everything by eye. Yes, of course, that's not the right way to do it, and the next projects will be done properly, by the book, but you always have to start somewhere. So, in the end, we got an interesting and successful project that, to put it mildly, was built on the wrong donor car. The new donor is a completely different story. Now we have a powerful rear-wheel drive car with a suitable wheelbase, which just needs to be combined with our body. We've put everything together here. The engine is in place. We've actually assembled everything here. The engine is standing, accessories, belt, everything in place, subframe back where it belongs, engine mounts bolted on, everything set. Yesterday I even put in the drive shaft, not without some issues of course. Oh, let's lie down now. Click. Put in the drive shaft. So, the drive shaft is currently sitting right here, in place. Now the next task is to carefully install the protective aluminum heat shield right here. The exhaust runs underneath it. Sashka went to get some oil, and now we are going to keep assembling everything. That's it. We'll hang the wiring, connect all the sensors and connectors, keep installing everything else. Today we'll probably even try to turn the key and crank the engine. Whether it will start or not, I don't know. I just don't believe we'll get it started that easily. I think there will be a bunch of errors, a bunch of little quirks. But at least trying to crank it with the starter, checking the wiring for integrity since it was all torn up. Before that's something I want to do. Alright, now I'm going to install the heat shield and the exhaust. So, the engine is in place. Before we try a test start, we decided to assemble the remaining pieces of the puzzle. The next step is to carefully connect all the wiring. That's not the easiest task either. Some wires are simply cut, and some are missing altogether. Many connectors are shredded to splinters so badly that it's hard to even identify them for replacement. And even if you manage to order a replacement, the following then happens.
So here's the situation we have. The BS chip destroyed after an accident. Completely. I mean, it was shattered into pieces. We ordered a replacement connector, but it turned out to be not from an XT3, but from an X3, I think. So now we need to transfer our pins into this one. We've got this assortment of all sorts of innovations.
Let's get started. In the end, half a day was spent on the final assembly and wiring. After that, we put in the air filter, poured in the oil, crossed ourselves, and started getting ready for the first start.
We added a little oil and hooked up the battery. I just used the battery from my own car for now, since it's small. The trunk is a mess right now. Our goal at the moment is just to crank the engine. We're not trying to start it right now. The goal is to crank the engine so the oil starts circulating, so everything gets going. 8 liters go into this work of art. So let's probably disconnect the injector connectors. How do you disconnect them? This just exactly.
Footwell lighting.
Yeah, footwell lighting. Oh, first signs of life, yo. First signs of life. Oh, the taillights. The taillight came on. The lights are on. Yeah, the car is showing its first signs of life, and the glove box light is in fact on as well. Well, that's it. Brand new, a new car. We fixed it.
But they don't lock in place. The
turn signals don't lock in place because no one ever uses them. No one ever signaled.
A very special tool indeed.
Especially trained key.
It honestly looks like nothing at all.
The ignition simply won't turn on.
Nothing simply turns on at all.
Neither the gearbox nor anything responds, nothing lights up.
We'll see, just soon.
Alright, now we'll check the fuses and probably have to take everything apart under the steering column here.
Or maybe it's a fuse that blew after the accident.
Powerful, yes. Maybe after the accident somewhere in the trunk. Let's grab it now and start checking.
In the end, we checked all the fuses, and unfortunately, everything is fine here. We'll have to keep looking.
So guys, we sort of managed to beat it. As you can see, this is, by the way, actually with the ignition off. And now it just showed its first signs of life.
Yes, right now we have the spark plugs in, but the injectors are disconnected.
The engine won't start, but the ignition is on. Check. The check engine light is on. Everything's fine. Basically, the issue was that the key was broken and the receiver couldn't see the antenna. I brought the receiver as close as possible to the antenna like this, and that was it. It detected it. It actually thinks it has fallen. There was just an error.
Maybe we should check the starter, but the starter worked when connected directly. Hey, do you hear that? Press the brake.
Ah, that makes sense.
We have an automatic. Ooh. Signs of life. Alright, we cranked it a little, but with a weak battery from my Peugeot, so it's a 45 amp battery. The mileage is decent.
265.
Well, it's gonna start now, you hear? Let's go ahead and get ourselves ready to hook it up.
Wait.
The board is there.
But it's without injectors. We turned off the injectors to crank the engine and circulate the oil. Alright, I need to screw the receiver on here. My hand is getting numb from holding it. Is it enough in there?
That's enough.
For now, that's the stage we're at. Now I guess we'll double check everything and put it back together. By the way, what's the situation with the fuel?
You can smell fuel sloshing in the tank.
Seems like everything's fine so far. Oil is oil, and there are no obvious problems at this point. Let's go ahead and reconnect the injectors to the engine, making sure each one is properly in place. After we've done that, we'll get ready and try to start it up. This is the first test start with the injectors connected, so if it's gonna start, it should happen now. Or not. No, that didn't work. Wait, we need to check what's what.
Any spark?
How would we know?
We don't know. I can't reach plugs.
You can't get to the ignition module. There's fuel, at least in the rail. Or rather, we have fuel. There's fuel in the rail. So either the injectors aren't opening, they're not getting a signal, or there's no spark.
And once again, we check everything that can be checked with a multimeter. It took half a day, but in the end we managed to find the weak link.
We replaced the crankshaft position sensor. Let's see what's changed. This old one didn't show any signs of life at all. Let's hope that was the whole issue. Sanya put the steering wheel and everything else back together here. So where's our key? Ah, here it is. The universal key. All right, press the brake. That was kind of scary. Such a harsh screech, but it started up right away. So it turns out the problem was with the crankshaft sensor. Instead of a proper signal, it was sending some nonsense. We replaced the sensor and that was it. The screech is probably coming from one of the belts. We'll figure it out, try to find where that harsh screech is coming from. But the main thing is, it fired up, it started, that's it. There's progress.
To rule out any squeaking in all the rotating parts connected to the belt, we decided to just take off the belt and spin the engine without it. No, that's something else. It's not those pulleys.
Yeah, the sound is really bad. No, I get the feeling the squeak is coming from the back somewhere.
But it seems it's coming from the front. What could it be?
Why is it starting so weakly?
Long time.
Yeah, like it's hard for the battery. It's got a battery in there.
Uh-huh.
So we're looking for the cause of this grinding noise. I removed the starter. Sashka suggested that it's the starter. There's some wear on the starter, some traces of either shavings or something else. So most likely the assumption is correct. There, I don't know if you can see it or not. No, you can't really see anything there. In short, the flywheel is slightly off here. That's why we have a starter that we bought with the car, but one of its mounting ears is broken off. But as an experiment, I'm going to put it in now, and if the noise disappears, we'll take this starter in for repair. They'll completely rebuild it, and then we'll install a fully functional starter. We've replaced the starter. The moment of truth will, we have the same noise here. I forgot the keys again. All right, the keys. Okay, hands out of the way. That's it, the noise is gone.
As you can see, the problem was with the starter. It was the one making that unpleasant noise. By a lucky coincidence, a starter repair shop was just 2 meters away from the car, and in literally 20 minutes, Sanya assembled the working version out of 2 broken ones. That's actually why we kept a bunch of old spare parts left over from the accident, which at first just looked like junk.
All right, so now we're about to do the first test drive, so to speak. Let's give it a try. Looks like we've put everything together. Brakes, power steering, everything's assembled. So let's at least try to drive a meter inside the garage. Because I think something will still be off anyway. The gearbox will probably say it doesn't want to go anywhere. What's that?
Artifacts?
It actually did this before too, when we just tried to start it for the very first time ever. It really had the exact same thing happen. And then it went away. Well, go ahead and try.
Now the service light's on.
It's running really badly now. On half the cylinders. Well, rev it a little. Will it rev up?
I'm pressing the gas so I can drive it out of here.
It revs, but it's throwing some seriously crazy error message. Let's probably not torture it any further.
We'll wait.
We'll check the error codes, because it feels like it's only running on half the cylinders. We're trying once again to cover the first few meters after all sorts of minor tweaks. We'll explain what happened later if it works out. Maybe, well, could it really move at least a meter under its own power, even if just in the garage? Well, oh, it moved on its own. The first few meters. And it stalled, back to square one. It's strange how it just stalls like that. But the guy with the computer hasn't come yet, hasn't reset any errors or anything. It's just the way it was after we installed the engine, nothing has changed. So most likely it has some errors that it's not willing to work with. Well, try to reverse.
Reverse.
Why is it moving forward when it's in reverse gear? We need to find the transmission issue. Maybe it's something simple, like I just attached the cable a bit wrong underneath, although there's no other position for it. There really isn't any other position. In short, BMW as always. So, after 2 days of work, we've got the cooling system assembled, the power steering system assembled, the brakes assembled, everything connected, bled and pumped. But whatever we touched, something always ended up leaking. We started working on the cooling system, the coolant booster pump failed. A couple of hoses started leaking at the seals and the heat exchanger started leaking too. We never defeated the box. The transmission moves forward in every gear. Drive, neutral, park it, goes forward in all of them basically. Apparently it really wants to go somewhere urgently. Despite our plans, there are a ton of errors. The interior has been torn apart. The interior is broken up, it was assembled, now everything's apart. We're waiting. An electrician is supposed to come by in about an hour. I hope he'll help us with the remaining issues. The windshield is already on its way. It's being delivered today. The electrician came by, but we didn't film it. He diagnosed the throttle body as the problem. There's an error with the throttle body, something about gears inside. It won't adapt, works poorly, and makes a rattling noise. The transmission is in emergency mode, showing an error. Apparently there's no power to it, nothing at all. The fuel sensor isn't working at all. The oil temperature sensor is working. We were worried about the engine temperature. They said the engine temperature is fine, it's working properly. The oil temperature sensor responds, it's working. The engine reads the sensors and won't overheat the system, prevents errors, and won't let itself overheat.
After we got the exact list from the diagnostician, all that's left is to fix each item. That's exactly what we're doing.
So we're carefully unscrewing the transmission mount. Our goal there is the power supply. Basically, we're making sure if power is actually reaching the transmission because the computer doesn't see it at all. I had to remove the exhaust from the manifold and the return lever. Here's the target connector. Now we're checking for power, control, anything, looking, testing, figuring things out. We also need to check the matching part in the gearbox, pin-out diagrams, a multimeter and a connector. Now we'll see what's here, if there's power and what other symptoms there might be. It seems we managed to fix the gearbox. The gearbox was in emergency mode with an error and the control unit didn't see the gearbox at all. What was the issue? The issue turned out to be that this connector was missing a ground wire. Well, the wire was physically there, but there was no ground on it. That is, inside the gearbox, on the valves, and everywhere else, there was no ground. So we rigged up a wire like this. Now we're gonna connect it to ground. This will be our ground. Well, it's a makeshift solution, but searching for a ground under the hood would take ages, and honestly, I don't really want to do that. The second issue was that this bracket was bent too far back, and because of that, the linkage was set incorrectly. We couldn't get into any gear, so basically everything was just moving forward. The gearbox had no idea where it was or what was being asked. No valve was engaged because there was no ground connection. Even so, it would just move forward in any gear, neutral, park, reverse any gear would go forward. When we straightened the linkage and synced it with the selector in the cabin, Sanya sat inside watching the dashboard, drive, neutral, reverse. I clicked through the gears, matched the selector with the flag, straightened the bracket, connected everything, and now it all shifts and works properly. The car now knows it has a gearbox, its position, and how it engages gears. Now I'm putting everything back together, reinstalling the gearbox in its place. Gearbox mount, exhaust, engine mounts, lifting it up and putting it back. By 5 o'clock it should be running. I think today it should move under its own power in the garage, forward and backward. For this it could only go forward, but uncertain. In the end we went through all the points, sorted out the gearbox, replaced the throttle, and now we can do another test start, the first few meters after fixing all the issues. So, is it possible that your front wheel is locking up? The whole thing is being dragged along, but the rear wheels are spinning. The rear wheels are turning, it's doing a burnout in place. What's up with that? Is the handbrake on, please? Something's weird right away, the wheels lock up. But it's still trying to move. An electrician came to see us. As you remember, we diagnosed the throttle back then. There were some issues with the gearbox. Sometimes it would break, sometimes not. We didn't understand the cause. We suspected it was likely the throttle, that we were putting a load on the gearbox and it was trying to regulate with the throttle so the engine wouldn't stall, which is why it was revving and moving on its own. And that's exactly what it turned out to be. there was no ground on the throttle. Basically, the throttle wasn't getting proper power. We started figuring out what was wrong together with the electrician. We checked all the wires, started testing the connectors, and realized that during assembly we missed one connector in the box right here, where the big box with the modules and everything is. We didn't see one connector and didn't plug in one of the plugs. It's a small down at the bottom, it carries the ground, it grounded the throttle. We plugged in that connector, the whole car immediately came to life. No errors on the engine, no errors in the transmission. So now the car behaves absolutely perfectly. The transmission shifts as it should. The throttle works as it should. Everything works as it should. That's it, the car idles. It runs smoothly. The only errors are for the ABS. Otherwise the car works. Everything is smooth. It responds immediately to the gas pedal. It sounds absolutely fantastic. All the cylinders are firing smoothly and efficiently. Everything is in place and everything works perfectly. The hood looks like it was chewed up and spat out by beavers because they didn't like it. We decided not to buy a new hood since we basically don't need it. We only need the hood in order to register the car, that's all. That's why we decided to try to restore, to straighten out this hood to make the process easier. I separated the hood into its components, took it apart into the reinforcement and the outer panel. And now we're gonna patch it up, fix it here and there. Yes, of course, this is a very questionable repair. In the end, it's hard to even call this thing a hood. Basically, it's only good for scrap metal, which is exactly where it will go after we register the car. For registration purposes, this level of repair is more than enough.
We've joined the hood, fitted the trim and the reinforcement together. Our repair methods are as radical as possible. These edges are fastened with self-tapping screws. We riveted this crimped edge. We used a wooden mallet to rivet it so as not to deform the aluminum. Now we also need to glue the reinforcement to the trim with sealant so they don't move and to avoid those so-called rattles. Then we flip the hood over and start applying filler. Here, looks like beavers have gnawed on it. We'll patch this up with fiberglass mats.
Our hood is made of aluminum and will carefully restore the missing pieces by using fiberglass mat and polyester resin, following the well-known and widely used technique. In the end, it took a couple of days for straightening and filling. Of course, it would have been easier to just buy a new hood. But considering the fact that it's made of aluminum, the prices for them are quite steep. But the fenders and bumper are made of plastic. These are more affordable parts. We bought them with some damage. We also did a bit of touch-up work on them. And now all that's left is to paint them. But first, we're replacing the windshield. That's the summary for today. See you. It's now 6 PM, the interior is assembled. Sanya has completely put the whole interior together, and Sanya fixed the multimedia system. This thing here simply wasn't working at all before, but now it's all completely fixed. Everything clicks into place, there are absolutely no errors. The engine starts up perfectly. The engine is running great, the cooling system is now fully assembled. We replaced this auxiliary antifreeze pump, and we also installed the radiator cooling fan. The guys came over and put in a brand new windshield. Right now we're just finishing up basically, it's just the fenders and the bumper left to install. The hood is being done in a rush as well. We're finishing up as best we can, and honestly, we didn't bother too much with the finer details. Just cut some plexiglass for the fog light covers, made simple plugs instead of actual fog lights, and put these grills here for the nostrils. Because, well, it's not that easy to buy them, and they're really expensive. The price is high. It's like you only need to buy them once, as if you never need them again. I'll spray the wheel. So, that's how a comprehensive wheel restoration is done, just kidding. So, at 1952 we have the front end mostly assembled. The gap, and we kinda held it here with a finger, pressed it there, lifted the washer a bit, put it underneath, painted it, and that's how it goes. It's 22:15 now. It's already late and the high level restoration is finished. Well, at least the painting is done. The bumper, the grille. Take a look at the grille. It's an awesome grille. I'll tell you where to get a grille like this. It's a fruit crate that we picked up from the dumpster. This kind of crate. The hook, the fender, the hood. That's it, the car is waiting for tomorrow when we'll come and finish assembling it. We won't be assembling it anymore today. That's all for today. The next day, when the paint had mostly dried, we moved on to the best part. The final assembly? The main task for today. Register the car in order to get the documents and license plates, and then move on to the next steps. And only after that, when the BMW turns into the Allgate, we'll take care of legalizing this creation, but that's a whole different story. Our assembly is now almost finished. The final touches are in the interior. Sanya is even tidying up with a vacuum cleaner in there. The last details wiring. The interior is assembled. We even vacuumed it. Now we'll take it outside, and in my opinion, it's like a brand new car. We rolled the car out onto the street, gave it a quick wash and headed to the traffic police.
So we got it. We just got approval from the traffic police. Literally a minute ago we pulled over to park, and that's the story. Somewhere there's a leak. Just a tiny bit. The tank cracked. Mine is with strong, this is something else. No, listen, the tank cracked, but there shouldn't be any pressure in it. Turns out, yeah. So it was just too airtight, right? For 5 minutes, I gave the guys a ride. Damn, let some of them out of the garage. Damn. Oh, right away, the little one. The ship is cracked. Now we're changing the tank. Probably heading to the electrician so he can check the fans for us. But I still lean toward the idea that we have. This cap here is dead. So it just doesn't. Although the fan should have taken care of all this. In short, it's unclear. Now we're gonna do something, head back to base and decide there. Tatika, well, something is happening, so from here we can work much more calmly.
In the end, after 4 long months since we dragged this dead thing into the workshop, this is the result we have. I think many people will wonder whether it was worth it in the end and how much this whole story cost. As is now our tradition, after each video is released on YouTube, we publish a post in our Telegram channel where we share the amounts, our opinions, and the behind-the-scenes details that usually stay off camera. Such a post has already been published in our Telegram channel. The link is in the description. Thank you for watching, and may your X stay sharp.